Where would I choose to live if I moved to the Virginia Beach area and had no idea where to start? Based on having lived here my entire life, this is where I would choose to live if I were moving to Virginia Beach in the Virginia Beach area right now. So I'm going to talk to you about where I would live if I was in different stages of life. For example, dual income, no kids, raising a family. Where would I want to live if I was raising a family in Virginia Beach or the Virginia Beach area? And if I was retiring, where would I want to live if I was retiring and wanted to live in Virginia Beach or the area around Virginia Beach? My name is Sansalone. I'm a real estate agent in the Virginia Beach area, and I've helped hundreds of families relocate from any other part of the country or the world to this area. Most of them have never been here before or have no concept of where to move, and I've helped many people to figure it out quickly and also very efficiently in a place to where they can feel comfortable and confident knowing they made the right decision. So this video is talking about where I would choose to move if it were me right now and if I had no past frame of reference, taking my personal experience from my whole life and incorporating it into what I think is the best for you if you're planning to move to the Virginia Beach area. So first, I have to show you where I live currently. And so if you zoom out on the map, looking at the Google Maps, I'm going to show you first. See, Virginia Beach is right here. I help people all the way from Williamsburg up in the top part near Toronto, New Kent, all the way down to Virginia Beach. But I live right now currently in Virginia Beach, closer to Mount Trashmore, in the very central portion of a neighborhood called Larkspur, right outside of Town Center, which is right here close by. It's kind of the downtown of Virginia Beach. Why do I live there? Well, so I needed to be somewhere very central, and my wife and I, our family, needed somewhere very central based on our work situations, and I needed to be somewhere that got me easy access to the beach, easy access to Chesapeake, easy access to Norfolk over here, but also easy access to Suffolk and even over going towards Newport News and Williamsburg, because I help a lot of people that move to Williamsburg. So I needed somewhere that got me to all those places within a reasonable period of time without having to make it harder on myself. And so that was a big reason why the central portion of Virginia Beach was interesting and made the most sense, generally speaking. But then I wanted a neighborhood with character. I didn't want something that was cookie cutter. I don't like that at all. And I like that extra style, just that unique blend of house style, some architectural uniqueness, stuff that makes a neighborhood feel just different. So, there are places in Norfolk that I'll talk to you about soon, and other places in the region of the Hampton Roads area outside of Virginia Beach that have that character. But for us, because of the needs of the family, Virginia Beach made sense. So the question was, well, where should we move in Virginia Beach that checked the box of location and the access to everything else, but also checked the box of the type of feel of the neighborhood that we like? And there are several neighborhoods that check those boxes. For example, going in the central section, there's several neighborhoods in the middle part: Bellamy Manor, Bellamy Plantation, Larkspur, even going towards Fairfield. There's a whole section here that has that character too. But also in the north central side, there's Little Neck and Great Neck, which we'll talk about as well. All these areas have some character to the dynamic of there are a lot of trees. It's an older part of town. And that's one of the things about being in Virginia Beach is you can't get the character that you might want in a place that has like houses built in the 1920s, like Victorian style houses. They just don't really exist in Virginia Beach. So I need to find something that had character, but not the same kind of character. That character could mean a lot of trees. It could mean houses built in an older time period that had some uniqueness to it. And so that's why we landed on this section in the middle portion of Virginia Beach, because it had that character to it. But it also had a price range that, for me, it was great bang for buck. I wanted somewhere that was not, you're paying way more just to be in a specific neighborhood than you could find the exact same neighborhood a lot cheaper somewhere else. I didn't want to be in a spot that I'm paying a lot more for the same kind of house. And so there are places like in Little Neck and Great Neck where you can get them a bit cheaper in a place in the central part, like where we picked. And so that's why we picked where we were, because it had the blend of price per square footage, just price in general, and also size of house, design, character, and neighborhood feel, but also access to the rest of the Hampton Roads area in a pretty reasonable distance. I'll drop a pin. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, for example, this is portions of Larkspur right here. Our neighborhood, you see, like, you got the trees. You have real nice tree coverage, but no sidewalks, for example. But that's another thing to mention in Virginia Beach and the area is there are a lot of neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, and that kind of makes it feel a bit unnerving. But I'll tell you that I grew up in a neighborhood that did not have sidewalks, and it's very common for this type of neighborhood to not have sidewalks. Some more about me is I lived and grew up in Hampton Roads in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake. I was born in Norfolk, but I lived most of my life in Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and through the area to the point to where I have so many friends that lived in, for example, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, but also Newport News, Hampton, up through Williamsburg. So I spent a lot of time through the whole area. So the map was kind of imprinted in my head. And so then by then, over time, I was able to learn the areas I like a lot, the areas I don't like a lot, and the whys behind it. And as time went by, those opinions kind of took more forms and even then changed because, again, I learned things and my lifestyle or our lifestyles changed over time. You kind of adjust accordingly. But I love this area and I know it very, very well based on just by force and because I have so many friends that live across the entire Hampton Roads area. One of the drawbacks to living in where we live around town center and near Mount Trashmore is that the school districts close to, like, for example, Kempsville, let's say we live in the Kempsville area. Kempsville, the school district rankings are not as high as you might find in other parts of Virginia Beach. For example, over towards the southeastern section of Virginia Beach, Kellam, Ocean Lakes, Princess Anne High School District, Cox, First Colonial, even down towards Chesapeake, Hickory, Grassfield, and Great Bridge. Again, there's some very in-demand school districts, even going over towards Yorktown. Those become in demand, but it makes the others not as targeted for school destinations. So a lot of school districts that can check a lot of boxes, but they may not be the ones that you'll see on the top rankings on a website like niche.com or greatschools.org, for example. So now shifting attention. Now the question is, where would I live if I was in a different stage of life? For example, young professionals, dual income, no kids, those types of dynamics. So back when I was single, I lived in Ghent. I lived in the middle of Ghent off Colonial Avenue right here, across the street from the Harris Teeter right here. And for me, I loved it. Not only could I walk across the street from Harris Teeter, which is amazing, I loved that, but the Ghent vibe is fantastic. You've got you can get some cobblestone street action going down towards the downtown area near West Freemason, but you can also, it's walkable stores, small mom and pops. It has not just the trees like you can find in Virginia Beach, but also the old colonial style houses. The architecture has that unique dynamic, and I need to go back. I'll drop a pin even going over towards Ghent Square. You'll see there are some built in the 70s and 80s, but a lot of houses built in the teens, 20s, 30s. And you can hop up and down these streets quite a bit. And two main streets, Colley Avenue and Colonial Avenue, a lot of storefronts, a lot of older buildings. I spent a lot of time eating. This is the Public House. Love the Public House right here. There are restaurants up and down here, some coffee shops. Cafe Stella, it's a really good one I like on Colonial. But then the Narrow Cinema, great old time theater, and it still feels like that when you walk in there. And I've run through here, walked up and down these streets all the time. So you see, it's a different kind of vibe. This is the walkable vibe that you can't find this in most of the rest of Hampton Roads. And so when people want that action, want that type of architecture, older architecture, and the history you get with Ghent, you can't find that in most other places. Now, there are places that can replicate that to a certain degree. For example, even going over towards West Ghent, being over near the breweries here, I would love to be able to live on this side of Hampton Boulevard in West Ghent over here. Some same of those older style houses I was talking about, Victorian, Craftsman, colonial style houses, and be able to walk or bike over to Benchtop Brewing right here, going over towards Torch. One of my favorite places to have a beer is right here. Part of my bachelor party was right here at the Bakehouse and the Birch. This is a great place to have a beer, the Birch. We got some pizza here at the Bakehouse and then went to the Birch, sat out here. Right here is where we sat, actually. And it just has that cool local vibe to it and some good restaurants nearby. So I like being around in Ghent for that reason. But in addition to that, if you don't want Ghent or the pricing in Ghent, you're talking anywhere in the single family houses, 500, 600, 700, up to $1 million, $2 million in some cases. If you don't want that style, or condos in the $200-300 price range, you can find other places that replicate it. For example, you can go over to the Vibe District over in Virginia Beach, which is right down here. Same kind of thing as what you find in Ghent, sort of, but it's totally not the same kind of architecture. There's a lot more walkable restaurants on this side. Really good bakehouse called Prosperity Bakery right there. There it is right there. And so good restaurants up and down here. There are a couple that I like. And so up and down here, Aslan Beer Company, a new place that was just opened up. So anything around here, you get some houses even going just a couple blocks away. You see this, it's more of a bungalow style mixed with a bunch of condo style. You get mixed with small lots, but you can get to the beach pretty easily. You can walk literally, you're a few blocks from the beach, the ocean front. So being in this area, Shadow Lawn, Beach Borough, Old Beach up on this side, this whole area closer to the ocean front would be a place that would be interesting to me if I was living, didn't need a lot of space necessarily, but I wanted to get closer to action. Also, you've got other places like it. For example, Town Center. We talked about being around there where we live, but there are some places near Town Center that, if you wanted a house, but you didn't, maybe you wanted to spend $550 or $450. There's some neighborhoods around here, Pembroke Meadows, Aragona's. It's all right. It's like $375, $400, but it's priced accordingly. But there's a condo neighborhood called Columbus Station, which is right here. You can walk from there over to the downtown Virginia Beach area, which is more of a big box type of downtown. But hey. It's the one area that feels the closest to a downtown. Like you see, it's not like downtown Norfolk, but it's a great spot if you want to have that same type of atmosphere of like a downtown feel. That's a great example of a place I would check out too. Where else would I go? Now, if you're looking at beach access, you could go towards the ocean front like I talked about. You could go up to the top part here in Norfolk. A little bit cheaper idea is up on Ocean View. I might consider that. There's kind of hit and miss in Ocean View as far as how the area feels. There are some parts that feel great. There are some parts that are like, oh, is this really what I want to be? Like, it's a kind of a mixed bag. So back in the 80s, 90s, Ocean View was a whole lot different than where it is now. It's definitely changed a lot to me for the better. A lot of newer construction houses, a lot of places that, like houses that got knocked down, rebuilt, this kind of thing. But you got still a mixture. It's kind of that element of newer, older, and there are certain parts that feel great. There are certain parts you might not feel the same. And so it's kind of a hit and miss depending on what you're looking for. Now that's often is baked into the price. It's a little bit cheaper in Ocean View, and it's also a long stretch. So, there are places you can kind of pick and choose, but you're talking new construction in the $650 and up range, $750, $850. Along the water, you're still talking, closer to $1 million and up. But for what you're getting, and also the beach access along the bay, it's uncommon to find the pricing here for what you're going to get. I'm a big fan of Ocean View, also for the appreciation potential, especially. East Beach also, there's a lot of newer houses in here, and so you get like smaller lots. You can walk over to, there's Cova Brewing Company I like a lot. Going over down further south, there are other restaurants that I think are fine. So it's got the local kind of convenient access, and if you don't have kids, don't need a big yard, you could get houses in the 7 and up range here, and along the water, again, over $1 million. But personally, you might not need to pay for it unless you want the newer house. You can get that, and that's the one place where you can get the kind of the planned community close to the beach, right there in East Beach. But otherwise, you can get a cheaper house in Ocean View, even going off the water for a few blocks. Houses built, in the 20s, 30s, 40s. That might be closer to the 4s range, or 350 or 475 range. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's a little bit different vibe as you come off of the water. If you want the beach access and don't want to pay as much, this is where I would check out if it was me. I really wanted the beach, but I didn't want to spend as much in this side of the Ocean View area here near Bayview. Bayview is a great example. Anything through this area, then you're not going to get a lot for the vibe. You'll feel like you're in Norfolk, but it's just not going to be like you find in Ghent or anything like that. Next, okay, what if I really needed to be on the other side of the water right here? Like this is the Elizabeth River. If I did not want to be on this side of the water, where would I want to be otherwise? Well, so people will often talk about Portsmouth. There's definitely a connotation with Portsmouth of what the vibe is there. Some parts that are awesome, I think. There are some parts that have a reputation. I love Old Town Portsmouth right here. There's a place called the Beer Garden, which I love. High Street is a great place to have there's a beer garden. One of my favorite restaurants anywhere is the Beer Garden. Anything through Old Town, I love a lot. I spent so many nights in around Old Town. Now, it has a lot of very similar vibes to what you might get in Norfolk or like Colonial Avenue or Colley Avenue. It's that kind of walkable feel up and down several streets, but it's not nearly as big as what you'd find in Ghent, for example. Roger Brown's. Awesome place if you like sports. I love watching football at Roger Brown's. They have some big TVs in the back. I get there early and they reserve a big TV. But you can take a ferry across from Portsmouth to downtown Norfolk or vice versa. So anything in Old Town, I like the vibe there, but you don't get as many options. And it's going to be cheaper than what you can find in Ghent. But some drawbacks there. Just like in Norfolk, there's some flooding concerns I would be aware of. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of leaned away from that when I was a single person that was trying to find a place to go that I could really enjoy. I loved Portsmouth and Old Town, but I realized I'd rather drive to Portsmouth and Old Town than live in Old Town personally. And one more place that if I was dual income, no kids, or a single young professional, it feels weird to say this in one sense, but Greenbrier. The reason I say Greenbrier is because if you need to be on this side of town, maybe for work, side of town meaning the base of the south side, Greenbrier is an area that has a lot of shopping. It has a lot of mixtures of types of houses in it. Like you've got condos and single family houses built, in the 80s, 90s. That's when kind of the biggest growth was happening. You can see the single family houses like 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, the kind of your standard in the 400 up to the 550, 600 price range. And you're close to a lot of shopping, a lot of big box stores on two sides of Greenbrier, the Greenbrier East over here, and then Greenbrier West over here. I like being somewhere in this section. You've got an area called Summit Point, which is right here. Oh, there it is, right there. That is kind of the downtown of Chesapeake. I've done videos about this area. It's very small. It's a shell of what the other downtowns are like, but it's coming. It's what Chesapeake's got, and Chesapeake has an older feel to it, and more of a community, like a local small town vibe to it. And so this is a new version of what's in Chesapeake. And I think that is there's some strip malls. It still has that suburban feel to it. And that's what Chesapeake kind of is. This is nice. And you can get a house in here, even in the 400, 500, 600 price range, nice country club, Greenbrier Country Club. You can be near here in the 6s, 5, or condos in the 350 range. So you got a lot of options here. So doesn't necessarily feel like you might say, well, why would I want to be, a single person living in Greenbrier? It's mainly for the access to everywhere else. So if you wanted somewhere that had access to a lot of shopping, but you also needed the access to other places, I would consider Greenbrier, even though it may not feel like you're in an area that has a ton of other people that are similarly in stages of life. Because you're also, as you go further south, it's going to feel a whole lot more rural, and that's where a lot of people end up raising families a lot of times too. So it depends, but I would keep Greenbrier on the radar also. The next is, where would I go if I was raising a family? Okay, well, that changes things a bit. So sometimes the school district becomes a focus. A lot of school districts in Virginia Beach, for example, over towards the southeastern Virginia Beach area, Red Mill Commons and Red Mill is right here. This area of Red Mill is extremely convenient. You've got so much shopping near here that is incredible to be close to. And there are some neighborhoods that are very like suburban areas near here, Red Mill itself, and other places like South Shore Estates. You got Sherwood Lakes right here, Highgate Greens, Three Oaks. We're going over towards Heritage Park, Asheville Park, new construction area over here. A lot of some nice neighborhoods, 4 or 5 bedroom houses, but they're priced a little bit higher. You're going to be paying in the $550, $600 to start mainly. And you can go up again, 800, $1 million. This area here is going to be pretty in demand, but you're close to other things like, Oceana Naval Air Station, but also a lot of great spots for parks. You've got golfing, you've got close to ocean areas, but the school districts are also in high demand. In addition to that, the south part of Virginia Beach, like in Salem, I would consider areas over down near there. A lot of traditional suburban areas with lots of shopping. And also a couple of places in the north side of Virginia Beach that I think are awesome for families that I would consider are Great Neck, which has a couple school districts that are in demand. First is First Colonial and also Cox High School District, which are on these sides, but also First Colonial extends into the Kings Grant area, which is an awesome part of town. I love the Kings Grant into Little Neck over on this side as well. So you got both sides are fantastic. And then for the most part, even going into Thorogood, I love Thorogood, the neighborhood that's in Princess Anne School District. So most of Virginia Beach in general is going to be in an area that for the most part has some of the most in-demand school districts in the entire area, which leads to demand for families, and I think great places to raise families. And then going over towards Great Bridge, Hickory, and Grassfield down here, anything through Grassfield, Hickory, Great Bridge, I'm a big fan of for a lot of different reasons, but you got a lot of, it feels more of a small town vibe in the South Chesapeake area. And personally, I feel like, any of these areas, they're going to feel generally similar. To me, I think they're a lot different, but you get just that classic suburban trees, newer houses to a certain degree, but school districts, and it's an area that I'm a big fan of if you want that family vibe. And I spent a lot of time in my teens with a lot of my friends that I grew up essentially in the Great Bridge, Hickory school district areas down in this whole section down here. Now, if you're thinking private school, you could also start in places like Cape Henry in the Great Neck area, or you can go even into Norfolk, even in places like near Norfolk Collegiate, Norfolk Academy over in this middle section of Norfolk, but on the western side of Norfolk Christian, another private school. Now, going up towards Yorktown, I would consider Yorktown, Tab, Grafton school districts I'm a big fan of, over towards Langley Air Force Base. In addition to that, going over towards Williamsburg, over towards Jamestown. You might like Jamestown in the area near Williamsburg as well. So school districts are a big thing in the area, and demand for school districts. So one other thing, that if you end up having to move to the western side of the area, I would consider Northeast Suffolk and Western Branch right here. This is Western Branch North, Western Branch South in Chesapeake, and then northeastern Suffolk over here. This is over near Harborview, and there's some neighborhoods specifically, like for example Burbage Grant right over here. It's same of what you might find in parts of Virginia Beach, the same type of houses, detached single families, different nice sized lots. And as you go further back in the neighborhood, you'll find that the lots get a little bit larger. There are different styles in different parts of Burbage Grant, different neighborhood names. You'll see that it's a nice, relaxed neighborhood. But one of the reasons why I like this is because if you have to be on this side of the water, so if you're going to be stationed at the Coast Guard base right over here, and you want a place that can love to raise kids, you want that kind of neighborhood feel. That's why I like being over close to the Coast Guard station on this side. I like Burbage Grant a lot for that reason. But you'll be paying about $550, $600 to start on this side. This is where like a lot of nicer new construction happens. If you want newer houses, you can start finding more options as well over going towards Crittenden, Carrollton, going down towards the central part of Suffolk. But again, school district might be a conversation you'll have depending on like kind of what do you want? What are you willing to pay for it? Those are always the questions in Suffolk. But at Chesapeake, there's some school districts in the Western Branch side that have some similarities to what you might find in Greenbrier as far as feel of neighborhood. But school districts, check out Western Branch school districts. You might really like what you can find on this side of town. So that could be an option you might find. You can find some newer houses in this side of town. So if you want a more contemporary style, you might find on this side would be a great place to find those for that family situation. Now that leads me to semi-retired or planning to retire or retiring in the Virginia Beach through Williamsburg area. Number one is I love Williamsburg. Williamsburg is a great option for retiring. The main reason is because you have a lot of golf courses if you like golfing. It's more of a relaxed environment around Williamsburg, and there are some neighborhoods that are designed for the relaxed retired environment. For example, Ford's Colony, one of my favorites in all of Williamsburg and the Williamsburg area right here, a big master plan community, one of the biggest in the whole area. There's nowhere else really that's similar to what you'll find in Ford's Colony. It's great. Nice amenities, you're around golf courses. I think if you want the retirement aspect and really love that relaxed vibe and the HOA with lots of clubs and places that you can kind of assimilate, I would consider Ford's Colony. In addition to that, you've got Governor's Land, which is over in the corner on this side. You're going to be paying a bit more, especially for the capital contribution fund. You're paying up I think at this point we're at $35,000 to $40,000 to get in. That's not the way it is in, for example, Ford's Colony, or even Kingsmill, which is another similar neighborhood down in the south corner, over down near the Kingsmill Resort, which is also surrounded by golfing as well. This area in Kingsmill is similar to what you'll find in Ford's Colony, similar cost, generally speaking, but a little bit older of a neighborhood. If you're looking to retire, the types of houses, more basements if you want more storage for more stuff if you're downsizing, but you don't want to get rid of it all. There's a lot more options for basements because the rest of the area in Hampton Roads do not have basements, mostly, except maybe parts of Norfolk. Otherwise, maybe if you want the beach environment, there aren't as many beach options on the north of the peninsula side, but for example, I would consider a place like Bay Lake Pines, which is a specific neighborhood right next to Chicks Beach right here. These are houses that are more ranch style, so you want the one-story living, but you can get to the beach super easily. Again, you're talking starting in the $650,000, $700,000 price range to start now. But if you want that environment, you want to be able to get to the beach that fast. The access to the beach is right here next to areas on the bay. You can get there from here, and you got, of course, on the water. You're talking well over $1 million, but you can start in the $700,000, $800,000 price range for a single-family detached house with a yard. And I think being able to have the yard and a pool maybe gives you the flexibility that most places near the beach don't have. There are other places like Ocean Park nearby, but that doesn't have the same vibe to me as what I specifically think it has in Bay Lake Pines. And even going away from there, you can go towards Shadowlawn. Shadowlawn has a beach vibe as well. It's kind of a faster pace than what you'll find in Bay Lake Pines, and not as many houses that are one story, so if that's a big deal to you. So that might not be as much of a thing, but I think that's why I'm a big fan of Bay Lake Pines. So otherwise, I would consider even the north end or going over towards Bay Colony. If you're talking over like 800 to a million, Bay Colony, the north end, going over towards the Cavalier. This section over here, this is a very nice, quiet neighborhood feel. People, the real surfers that want to be on the ocean front but don't want the crowds, will go up towards the north end and surf there. So it's a bit quieter up here. Otherwise, if you want to be in that condo but retired, but you want that same kind of hustle and bustle a little bit, you still want to have that to a certain degree. There are a decent amount of condos in Ghent, a lot actually, in the section of Ghent, closer to just north of what's this called the Hague, just north of the Hague, all through here in Ghent Square. I would check out Ghent Square if you're looking at you still want that active environment, close to a lot of stuff, close to downtown, but you still want that kind of that low upkeep living. Maybe check out Ghent Square for sure, even areas towards West Freemason. I love West Freemason because there's a lot of places that have cobblestone streets. You can walk to a coffee shop called The Cure. This is not the one with cobblestones. There are a few that have cobblestones. There is one right there. This is a fun street to drive on, except for the fact that you're going to be murdering your shocks, I guess. But there's one car experiencing that right now. One more place, if you're open to an area that doesn't have a ton outside of the area as far as like things to do close by, but maybe some golf, but some active lifestyle vibes close to the water, I would check out the western side of Newport News. You say, okay, well, you may have looked up Newport News, and there's a lot of differing opinions about Newport News. Let's put it like that. Now, if you're near Christopher Newport University, close to the Mariners Museum, this whole side here, there are some places where you can walk and run near the Nolan Trail. This is a nice area with great views of the water. And so I would not discount this side near the water. There's some of the most underrated areas, single family, there's some nice ranch styles in this side of town, but being over here, you don't have as much access to as many opportunities for shopping, and even places that I wouldn't say there's much opportunity to, I'd say, meet a bunch of people in my opinion, but anything on this side as far as house goes, you're going to get a lot of better price in the West Newport News side based on demand, but you can also go closer towards, the central part of Newport News. This is City Center over here, and you can still get places like Costco, Whole Foods. And also one last place, if you want to do in Newport News, Kiln Creek is a nice kind of master plan community. It's around the golf course, but has a lot of condos and single family, low maintenance living. And if you want to be in Chesapeake and retire also, I used to live in a neighborhood called Riverwalk. Of course, I'm not retired yet, but I know that this area would be, if I was looking in a place that I wanted to retire. Riverwalk is right here. There are places that you can grow up and spend your whole life in Riverwalk in different parts of it. And there's condos. There are single family houses back along by the water. You got places over near docks with docks that are amazing views and boat access, which is an uncommon thing in Chesapeake. And next to that is also the Preserve, which the Preserve, if you go all the way into the back, coming all the way back here, there's a neighborhood on the very back corner. This is the river view at the Preserve, and this has some boat access, some dock access. If you have a boat and you want to do some relaxed living with a boat, I would check out this HOA neighborhood here. I used to have a friend whose parents lived here and just moved and built their house elsewhere. They had the access to the dock, the gazebo. I just think that that's a kind of a hidden gem that people don't really pay attention to, that is relatively new in the area that I'm a big fan of. You're talking 6s and up mostly in the Riverview at the Preserve. So if you have any more questions about relocating to the whole Virginia Beach to Williamsburg area, let me know. I do this all the time. I love helping people relocate to the area. And it goes from anywhere from different times of life, different parts of the area, Virginia Beach through Williamsburg. Just let me know. I have my contact information in the description. You can book a call with me. You can email and text as well. And I also have a guide, a downloadable guide about living and relocating to the Virginia Beach area. It's free, so you can click it and peruse that if it helps get you started to just get acclimated to what's here and what the whole wonderful Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area is like. If you're still trying to figure out where to move, I've got a quiz in the description too you can click on to learn more about if you just answer the question. recommendations, and it'll tell you, based on what you're saying, would be some good places to move to. If you want to watch more of my videos about the details of the Virginia Beach area, I have videos here you can click as well to watch, and you can binge as much as you like, and I'll see you on the next video.